In the military, you can go to war at 18, but God help you if you step on some grass. Most people think they know all of the military do's and don'ts, but what they don't know is that you can get court-martialed for having sex the wrong way. In this video, I'm breaking down 10 weird rules that the military has, so don't skip a second because this is some crazy and petty stuff. Number 1 weirdest rule, check this out. The same app that you see all kind of military members doing dances, following trends, showing how to glow up while in the military. That app is actually banned by the DoD. I'm talking about TikTok. In 2020, the Department of Defense declared TikTok a cybersecurity threat, warning that it could be used by foreign adversaries to collect data and compromise military operations and members. The Navy was the first one to act, banning it, and then all the other branches followed suit shortly after. By late 2022, Congress passed a law that removed TikTok from all federal government devices. So what this ban means, you cannot use TikTok for any official business. That includes recruiters, public affairs, and squadron command account. Can you use it on your personal phone? Yes, it is legal, but it is highly encouraged for you not to download it even for your personal device. Now what makes this rule so weird is that you can go on TikTok right now and see all kind of people in uniform, even recruiters posting on TikTok. I get it. TikTok is the #1 platform for young adults. So if you're trying to get your message out, TikTok is the perfect place to do it, but it's illegal for military members. So even though it's not a UCMJ violation, it can still tear your career up if you're using it for official purposes. All right, the number 2 weirdest rule, and I did not know this before reading this. You can't cuss in the military. And that's weird because people cuss all the time. Turns out too many F-bombs can get you in trouble. I ever heard the term you cuss like a sailor. You could actually go to jail. Under Article 134 of the UCMJ, it says indecent language is officially off limits. In theory, cuss word can land a military member in jail, but in practice, this rule is rarely enforced. You don't have commanders just lurking around every corner trying to see who's cursing or not. So typically people curse and nobody bats an eye. However, this rule will be enforced when you step over that line. And that line being like cussing out your commander or cussing out your boss or cussing at a child who is under the age of 16. That is also a crime. And this can actually be punishable up to a dishonorable discharge or a forfeiture of all pay and 2 years confinement. I've never run into the cursed police myself, but it has happened in the past. I consider this like a weird technicality that is in fine print, but it's actually written in the book. So maybe you might want to watch your language the next time you go into work. Number 3 weirdest thing. This one I thought was funny. There's a rule that's like says no stragglers. So if you're like the type of person who falls to the back when y'all are doing like group runs, you better beware. The UCMJ says that to straggle is defined as to wander away, to stray, to become separated, or to lag or linger behind. In other words, if somebody falls out of march because they're lollygagging when they're supposed to be keeping up, the military can charge them for it. While in most cases, the slowpoke just gets yelled at or motivated, it's technically a punishable offense by the UCMJ. So why does this rule exist? Think combat scenario. One person wandering off or lagging behind can endanger the whole unit. So historically, armies had to enforce this to prevent desertion or chaos within the unit. These days in peacetime, it's pretty uncommon to see this rule enforced. Definitely when somebody goes AWOL, but not straggling. But the rule says that it is punishable up to 3 months confinement and 2/3 of pay docked for 3 months. That's crazy. So next time you and your group run and you decide to fall back a little bit, it's against the law. The number 4 one is in the civilian world, if you decided to wear military clothing, it's not actually illegal. They call it stolen valor. The only time it's illegal if you actually get like personal gain from it. If somebody gives you something because they thought that you were serving in the military before. But if you're actually in the military and you do stolen valor, that is illegal. What is stolen valor for somebody in the military? That's if you wear rank that you haven't earned, if you have medals that you haven't earned, or even ribbons that you haven't earned. And you could be court-martialed for this. So while some civilian can strut around in a surplus store uniform and say that they served and get away with it scot-free, you gonna go to jail. And this is not something that's taken lightly. Case in point, there was this Marine Sergeant Major in 2023, this was recent. He was walking around with a Purple Heart and a combat action ribbon. For years years. And then somebody called him on it and realized that this dude ain't never earned no Purple Heart or no combat action ribbon. Not only did they court-martial him, but they broke him down to the rank of sergeant, and that dude had to get out, pretty much. You know how lame that is to walk around with ribbons or medals that you didn't earn? That's lame. So luckily, this isn't a common thing. Although they take it serious, most people don't do it. Most people take pride in what they actually earn, but it can happen, and when it does happen, the hammer comes down hard. The number 5 one. Now this one is probably the craziest one if you're a civilian, because in the civilian world, if you cheat on your spouse, that's just some personal stuff that y'all have to go through. Maybe it gets a little bit more than personal and she slices up your tires or keys your car, or maybe she or he takes you out. But that's personal. But in the military, it is actually a crime if you cheat on your spouse. I know this often blows civilian minds, but yes, even if it's consensual between you and someone else, if it's not your spouse, that's a crime. The rationale is that adultery can actually start to impact the unit, especially, let's say that you're sleeping with someone from within your unit. This could be prejudicial to the good order and discipline, or a nature that brings discredit upon the armed forces. And that is why they deem it illegal. Is this rule still enforced today? Absolutely, but not as often as you think. Normally, commanders only pursue this rule is when the crime is like egregious, attached with something else as well. But if you're caught and they want to pursue it, they can punish you and give you forfeiture of all pay and a maximum confinement of 1 year. So if you raise your right hand and you take that oath to the military and to your spouse, you gotta uphold that. Even off-duty infidelity can become Uncle Sam's business. Speaking of relationships, the number 6 rule is who you can fall in love with. The military also forbids certain relationships. They call it fraternization, and this is between officers and enlisted members, even if it's totally consensual. In simple terms, an officer cannot fraternize with enlisted members. This is not just like sexual or love relationships. This is also as friends. So no dating, no living, no gambling, no partying. All of that can be deemed as fraternization. And the reason why is because the officers are the leaders. If they start dating or living or hanging out with the enlisted members, it kind of takes away that discipline and it kind of takes away that structure of leadership. Now the enlisted people don't see you as a leader anymore. They see you as your friend. When it's time for you to give an order, the enlisted people don't want to take it because you're their bro, or you're their boyfriend, or you're their girlfriend, whatever it is. So the military wants a clear chain of command, not any soap operas. Now, when we was talking about adultery earlier, this is usually when somebody gets in trouble with adultery, is when they combine it with fraternization. So like if an officer who is married is also sleeping with like an enlisted member, they're gonna get him for adultery and fraternization, and that's gonna be career ending because the officer is usually the one held accountable or more accountable. The maximum punishment is dismissal for an officer, like you're out. 2 years maximum confinement and forfeiture of all pay. A lot of times when I've seen this in the past, they usually move one of the members from one unit to another so they can kind of separate them. That's if the leadership didn't want to screw them. But if the relationship continues, that's when you see it go south and somebody's got to get out. Now, keeping it on relationships, the number 7 rule is kind of crazy. For decades, the U.S. military could prosecute somebody for sodomy, even if it was consensual. Sodomy in the UCMJ is defined as an unnatural copulation, which included oral and anal sex. And this was considered a criminal offense, regardless of the gender or the marital status. That meant married couples could literally go to jail for spicing things up in the bedroom. And this rule was enforced. Now, it sounds medieval, but it was mainly targeted towards like the LGBTQ community back when there was the don't ask, don't tell policy. So the military, not too long ago, matter of fact, when I joined, it was still that way. They weren't too fond of like same-sex relationships. So if they found out it was going on, they could get you in some serious trouble, get you kicked out of the military. And also, if they found any like sodomy stuff going on, they could slap that onto you as well. So is it still illegal today? Yes and no. Nobody's worried about if you're doing any spicy stuff in the bed anymore. But if they find out that there was like some non-consensual type of stuff and they found out that sodomy was enforced or done during that non-consensual stuff, they can get you for that plus whatever else crime was committed. So all those people from like the 1990s and the early 2000s that got in trouble for this type of stuff, all of that stuff was overturned later because the civil rights realized that was messed up. Now, number 8 is just a combination of petty stuff. In the military, you gotta walk around with a reflector belt on when it's light outside sometimes, just so people can see you. And what I hate most about it is that when I was a young airman, I would not have a reflector belt on. Someone could see me and tell me I don't have a reflector belt on. And I'd be like, if you can see me, then obviously I don't need one, but it was a rule. Also, walking on grass. It's not so much enforced like it used to be, at least on Air Force installations, but I've heard that Marines and Army still have the thing where you do not walk on the grass. And it's not like this is like some fine grass that's taken care of. It's just, you don't walk on it. And you also can't have a dirty room, at least if you're living on base. And yes, that's for your barracks, your dormitories, or your base housing. If you're living on base, you have to keep that stuff clean. Somebody can come to your place at any given time and do an inspection. And if you don't meet the inspection, you can get in trouble. When I lived in the dorms, we used to have people come and do like white glove dorm inspections. They would check my blinds for dust. They would check my bed, make sure it was made. They would check my shower, make sure there's like no scum. Check my sink, check everything and just make sure that my room was clean. Make sure it didn't stink as well. And the thing I hated most is like if somebody did something like this, didn't wear a reflector belt, walked on some grass or had a dirty room, they could do like mass punishments for everybody. Like one person can mess it up and then everybody will be outside and doing mass punishments, whether it's doing some type of stupid workout or we're cleaning the entire dormitory, or we're just standing outside at attention or in parade rest for hours until they tell us to go back in. So we can make an example of that one person. And then when we go back inside, everybody is mad at that one person who got that mass punishment, which is why they do it, is because you kind of police each other. When you know, like, this one person can get us all in trouble, everybody will make sure that stuff stops, usually. My number 9 is something that I used to hate. You can't have your hands in your pockets, which I didn't understand because my uniform has pockets, but I can't put my hands in my pockets. The idea is that it looks unprofessional and sloppy. When I first joined, I used to always hear, get your hands out your damn pockets. And so it was ingrained in me so much that I don't really have my hands in my pockets now. But in the Air Force, they actually overturned this rule not too long ago and said that we can use our pockets when deemed necessary. So although nobody was really getting in like any real trouble for your hands in your pockets, it did get you yelled at pretty intensely in front of everybody if you had your hands on your pockets. So interestingly, in 2001, this rule started to relax. I think it started happening with Gen Z coming into the military. Like they couldn't understand the hands in the pockets thing. That was the Air Force when they took the rule down. But then in 2023, the Navy followed suit. But beyond the Navy and the Air Force, I don't think any other branch got rid of the rule of no hands in your pockets. I think the Army and the Marines, you still don't want to be caught with your hands in your pockets. I don't know. All I would say is maybe go on one of their bases, put your hands in your pockets and see what happens. And lastly, this one is stupid. I don't even know why this one is a thing, but the Army says that you cannot have anyone dressed as Santa Claus on their aircrafts. Now, why the Army has a rule forbidding Santa from flying around in aircrafts, I don't know. I'm assuming it happened before, but they didn't just ban Santa Claus. They also banned the Easter Bunny. They banned witches and any other holiday characters. This rule has been in effect for over 2 decades now. And when they ask some of the officers or the commanders like why it's in effect, they don't even know anymore. They just shrug it off. I don't know. And it's only particular to the Army. Other branches don't have a problem with Santa Claus being on their aircrafts. So if you ever wonder why you never see Santa Claus on a Black Hawk, I don't know. It be like that sometimes. Now, if you like this video and you want to hear me debunk 10 myths that people think happened before you join, I got a video on the screen right now breaking those down. But like I always say, I hope this video brought value to you. Stay beautiful, stay classy, and until next time, check me out.